All right. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. My name is Kaylee Howarth, and I'm the Training and Communications Coordinator at Marigold. And I'm really happy to be able to host this session with Eric. Eric has been the Programming and Customer Engagement Manager at the Airdrie Public Library for 2 years. Originally from Nova Scotia, Eric grew up in the library and worked in his childhood library before moving out west. In his free time, you can find Eric shooting hoops, reading books, and singing karaoke. Thank you so much for joining us today, Eric. I am going to turn off my camera now. Oh, actually, sorry. Everybody, please feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation and we'll get to them at the end. To do that, if you could please use the Q&A panel rather than the chat, that would be great. And we'll make sure we get to all the questions at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone and pass everything over to Eric. Thank you, Eric.
All right, thank you. Yes, before I get underway, I would just like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Blackfoot and the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which is where Airdrie Public Library sits. This includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Gondy, the Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, including Chickasee, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nation. Acknowledging the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region, I'd just like to give recognition to the fact that this is their traditional lands, and while a shared home now, our ancestors were in fact guests and not owners. So I will now share my screen and hopefully do it properly. You'd think I'd have it down by now. All right, perfect. I do have it down now. Perfect. So thank you for attending my talk. I put on pants for this. Kind of adapting event programs for the pandemic. Landed on the title because, nowadays you only have to look good from the waist up. But if you really want to look professional, sometimes you need to put on pants. And hopefully you're not putting on pants to go to a program for a complete waste of your time. And if you're wearing pants right now, hopefully this is not a complete waste of time either. So a little bit about me. Kayla kind of mentioned I've been in my position for 2 years now. I guess I don't get to do karaoke a whole lot anymore, but my position is the manager of programming and customer engagement. So I like to think of it as there's the front of the house that has all the books, that gives you the stuff you need. There's the back of the house that gets all the books in and out. And then all that's left is the outhouse, which is very appropriate for someone whose last name is Potty. But we're able to kind of do the things that once you're in the library, you're sticking around for a little bit. And that's kind of how I look at it. I probably shouldn't have gone to I forgot how short this GIF really is. So I'll slide back one while I talk a little bit. So for the presentation today, I'm just going to go over some key concepts that I feel really kind of like root into programs and how you need to kind of plan programs right now for the pandemic. I'll just kind of talk about those individually. Then I've got 5 program events that we have done in the past year over the pandemic. And I'll talk about how we incorporated those concepts into those new programs and the events. And then they'll kind of wrap up and I'll have time for questions. I can at times talk a little bit too fast. That's the East Coast in me. So if I am going too fast or people need me to kind of slow down or repeat something, please let me know. Because, I'll just chatter on and on and on and on and on. But anyway, without further ado now. So, of course, we all want to go to the library. That's where all the cool, fun things are happening, right? So the 4 strategies or concepts that I'm going to talk about right now is flexibility, adaptivity, gamification, and then multiple platforms. I couldn't come up with a fun buzzword for that one, and I apologize. Probably should have workshopped it a little bit more. So what I like to think of in terms of your programs is you want to keep flexibility in mind, and flexibility and adaptivity, like on the whole, look like the exact same thing. But the way we like to think about it is that flexibility is patron driven and adaptability is going to be for us. So the flexibility part was going to be providing options for your patrons and for people who are registering, who are going to attend these programs. So that might mean it's going to be on Zoom. So it's flexible enough that they can do it from home, which of course right now we all have to do anyway. It's why we're doing a presentation like this rather than, we all meet somewhere. Some of that flexibility might be you're doing pre-recorded videos and things like that. So the flexibility is on people. They can do it whenever they want. It's no longer like an old program where you have to be here at 11 o'clock in the morning for our sing, read, and rhyme. Well, now it's recorded. You can do it whenever you want. If it's a nap time, no problem. Wait till the kid is up, do the program. So being able to build that into their own existing schedules and having those options around has been a big benefit. So whenever we're looking at a program, we're always trying to see, well, how can we make this as flexible as possible for the patrons, for the people who are going to be attending this? And part of that flexibility as well is the ability to miss a program. We kind of operate under what I like to refer to as the sitcom doctrine. So all of our programs, especially ones for youth, they are to be self-contained programs, like a sitcom, right? If you're watching one episode of The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers, whatever, you're watching a sitcom show, you can pretty much watch any episode in any order and still understand and still enjoy yourself. But a drama, of course, you got to watch in order. So we try to avoid that of saying, okay, we're going to build on what we learned last week into next week, into next week. It's no, this is a self-contained, your own thing. So that people, again, have the ability to miss a week, because just like in school or in university, you miss a class, you're behind, you're trying to catch up, you're struggling. You may feel like you're never going to catch up. So what's the point in me coming back, right? I've already missed too many classes. There's no point in me attending these programs anymore. So having that flexibility for people, it also helps a lot, obviously, when the rules of how you can run a program change, to be able to be flexible, to be able to have that movement and be able to keep going. Adaptivity, like I mentioned, is very similar, but it's for us. So that's having a plan B. So that's going to be, say, in some weird hypothetical situation, the government goes on TV at 4:30 in the afternoon and tells you effective tomorrow, you're closed. Not that that could ever really happen, right? But if something like that happens where all of a sudden you have a plan and then it's completely out the window now, I think one thing we've all had to kind of learn during this pandemic is you need to have a good plan B. And that plan B is going to be different for every program and every event and everything that you're going to do, but you always need to have a plan B. So it might be, hey, we're going to go in person, but we think this can be done on Zoom or live streamed or in a recorded video, or hey, we're going to do it in a recorded video, say it's the exact opposite, where now we're open. So, okay, we're going to record a video. Well, we can meet in person again. Okay, well, how can we do this program in person, socially distanced, which is really the problem we're looking at right now, right? Assuming the way things are going and looking, we're now going to shift back, hopefully, knock on some wood here, we're going to be shifting back to doing things in person, maybe not in your library, depending on the size and the scope of your library and what your own policies are, but maybe it's outdoors, maybe it's going to be at the community center, maybe it's going to be at the park or whatever, in your own library, things like that you might kind of say. So now you need to have a plan B to shift it back to in person. And again, we may need a plan C in case the cases go up again. We need to close it back down and shift back to being closed. It doesn't sound like, it does sound like common sense. And to me, like, we don't need to have a full mapped out A, B, C, D, E, like every little detail figured out. It just says, okay, we need to have an idea. God forbid we need to shift to this idea, but we need to be prepared and have an idea of, okay, if it looks like tomorrow we need to move indoors, this is how we can do it. If tomorrow we are closed, well, how do we get the supplies out? How do we get the kits out? Just having that kind of in your back pocket. In a lot of cases, you only really need to come up with an idea once, fortunately, for some of this stuff, because it's going to copy over from program to program, from event to event. It's going to be, okay, we'll just switch to this method. But it is always important. So for me, yeah, flexibility is for the patrons. Adaptivity is going to be for us, our changing, our moving, and how we're going to be able to kind of to play around. The next one up is gamification. I don't think this is one needs a whole lot of explanation, but I probably will talk too long about it anyway. So that's just going to be, prizes, little games people can do, something to keep them invested and interested, a reason for them to come. So it might be, hey, we're doing this program. We would love it if you posted photos of you doing the program on social media using this hashtag, and then we are going to do a random number generator, say, okay, look, we had 20 entries. Whoever was the 11th, they won the prize. So we find, okay, who posted the 11th time? It was this person. Okay, you win a prize. But we're adding this little incentive to kind of say, like, hey, like if you get involved and you engage with us, even in a digital space, there is an incentive for you to do so. We always have found, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you as well, that when you're doing programs and things in the library, it's obviously a great way of getting people into the library. And then, not that we explicitly guilt people in, but, you know, you kind of infer when someone's in the library, they're attending a program, they're more likely to take out a book or a movie or whatever. They're more likely to take advantage of these programs if they're already in the building. If the parent is waiting to pick up a kid, they may grab books. Parent is, or an adult is waiting for a program, they may just browse, wait around, find some books, things like that. So here's still a way of engaging and maybe not getting books, but by doing this game, by saying, reach out to us, we're still holding those connections in more than it just being like, come pick up your kit, do your kit, forget about us. So there's still that like extra level of engagement between the patrons in the library. Again, the fourth one, which I don't have a very fancy title for, is multiple platforms. So that's mixing and matching things. You know, maybe you're going to live stream while somebody's in the library. Maybe you're going to be looking at how you can do a Zoom call while also having people around. Maybe it's going to be, we did a take-home kit, and so you're doing it all on your own. But hey, we're going to have a meeting at the end of the week where we want to see the thing you created. You know, we gave you a little art kit. We want to see what you made out of it. You can talk to each other about how you made this and differences and the obstacles you had to accomplish, things like that. So it's a, you know, we're moving from one to the other, but we're kind of tying a bunch of stuff together and trying to make it all one big thing. So those are kind of like the four, again, like the big things that we always are looking for. I guess I probably could have changed gamification to engagement and then made that just what I talked about. But those just kind of like big four things for us, is always looking at flexibility, adaptivity, gaming, and then how can we tie a whole bunch of stuff in together. So now I'm just going to talk about 5 event programs that we have done and how they kind of incorporate these things. So we do event days. I'm sure a lot of you also do event days. So things like Harry Potter Day. You know, if you do Family Literacy Day, Seniors Week, those kinds of things, you know, like larger things that are going to be a big day where you get a whole lot of people. We did Mighty Machines, which I'll talk about later. We did our very first writer in residence position, which happened during the pandemic. So it's not just figuring out ways to transition your old programs and your old events into the new world, but also how can you create a whole new program in this crazy alternate universe that we find ourselves living in. The next one's Voice and Vision. And then finally, the Summer Reading Club, because I'm going to talk about really our biggest learning experience that shaped all programs we did was last year's Summer Reading Club. I'll talk more about when I get there, but it shaped everything in our thought process, not necessarily for the best, but it was a real learning experience last summer. So like I said, first up is event days. So these are things we did: Harry Potter Day, Star Wars Reads Day, Pumpkin Palooza, Snowflake Follies, Family Literacy Day. There are some others, but these are just some of the big 5 that we always do every year. Then I have just some little images from those. So we ultimately had decided that we still wanted to do these event days, but we had to kind of figure out how to do them. In most cases, these would be activities that you would come to the library. You would do some activities, there'd be some crafts, there'd be some games, there would be big book displays. We would do signing kids up for library cards, talking about the library, all that kind of fun stuff that, again, I'm sure you all do regularly anyway. But of course, in the pandemic, we couldn't do it. So we ultimately decided to do quite a few take-home kits. So all these programs would have, you know, program supplies put in them. We would have instructions, but we also, again, decided to do recorded videos showing you how to do this. So the little stormtrooper there, I have my little one right here. I made a video showing you how to make this. Everyone got just a piece of paper. This is just made out of one piece of paper you cut up. Everyone got one. You cut it up. You make your own little dude. And, you know, it's just glue. It's easy. But we made a video to show them how to do it, giving them tips. So certain things, you know, like, hey, like rather than fold on just the desk, take a ruler so you can get precise fold, stuff like that, that we would tell them if they were in the library, but they may not think of right away. Some programs also did include virtual programming as well. That would be live, like something like this over Zoom. So we did find ways to adapt. Whoop, didn't mean to do that. Sorry. We did find ways to adapt things and still be able to do parts that were big influences on programs. So for example, you can see some pumpkins here. A big part of Pumpkin Palooza always was that people would bring their own jack-o'-lanterns and we would do a pumpkin walk. We put little like LED candles in them, turn the lights down low, and it's a preschool program. So the little kids would walk around the pumpkin, see every pumpkin, and then they would go home with like a little treat bag and we would do a story time, that kind of stuff. Well, we couldn't do a story time this year and we couldn't have people bringing their pumpkins to do a pumpkin walk. So what we decided this year is actually partner with the city to raise awareness about their pumpkin recycling program. And we encouraged people on November 1st to bring their pumpkins to the library so we could still do that night a pumpkin walk. We put in candles and people, as they were coming to the library, could go through the lobby, see the pumpkins, and then head on out. Or at that point in time, the library was still open to the public, so they could come in and grab a book and see some pumpkins and head out. And you can kind of actually faintly see here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there is, a little bit of mold and stuff setting in because the pumpkins are a couple days old. And again, part of this was we still want to do our pumpkin walk, but this is a great way to tie it into a city operation, a city program, to find that partnership. So the fact that they are looking a little bit, a little past their prime, they're still drawing awareness, and it still is a way for us to deliver that program in a whole new way. And again, it was passive. So we let people, they had all night, we set up the pumpkins, I think at like 3:00 in the afternoon, and we closed at 8:30. So they had 5.5 hours, to come in and check out. So we still got to keep that core component of the program. Even actually these little Star Wars figures, we made up a whole bunch of kits. And I decided as an extra little game, they have all these little figures, including all the major Star Wars characters. So each kit, we only printed off one Luke Skywalker, one Darth Vader, and put them in the kits. And then the other X amount of kits all got these stormtroopers. So as an added little game, we asked people, hey, if you got Luke or Vader or whoever, let us know, because you're the only one who got that one. There is only one out of the 75 packages. There's one Luke, there's one Darth Vader. So even when we're doing these little activities, little things like this, we're still throwing in a bit of a game of saying, hey, like maybe you won the Luke Skywalker lottery and yours is going to be the cool figure, when 65 people got little stormtroopers. We did learn a pretty big lesson through Star Wars Reads Day when it came to the kits and preparing. And this is something I'd also encourage you all to kind of take advantage of or think about. When we did up Star Wars Reads Day, we had decided registration capacity was 75. We were going to do 75 kits. And when it came down to registration, we only had about 65 people sign up, which is still a great number. We're happy with that number. However, it meant that we have 10 extra kits that we have made up, we have bought the supplies for, and we just have floating around kind of thing. Hopefully we'll use them another day. For Harry Potter Day, which we did a few months later, we went another way of saying we're going to make up 50 kits, and we're going to cap the registration at 50, and we're going to have a big wait list. And then that way we can kind of play around and say, okay, look, we know 2 days in advance, we've made up our 57 kids have signed up. Okay, well, we'll contact these kids, say they're going to get a kit, and we can make up 7 kits, and it'll save us a bit of money in that waste. So with Star Wars, we had leftover kits. With Harry Potter, we didn't, because we made the exact amount. It's also obviously fun when you can call parents and families and say, hey, you actually are off the wait list. You can come collect your Harry Potter Day kit. And the parents always say, oh, it's so great. Where the kid's going to be thrilled we can do Harry Potter Day. We weren't quite sure. So it sometimes is better to, even though we were prepared to go up to 75, we didn't advertise that was the cap. We shot under so that we knew that we would have more than enough and we wouldn't have a wasted amount. So sometimes you want to keep that kind of in consideration of, are we going to make all these, and what if we don't all sign up? Hopefully you're in a situation where maybe you can make the kits up like the day before. For us, just to make that many, that in that short time period, we have to start in advance to get everything ready. And then for Family Literacy Day, this is something that actually was a little bit of a blessing for I shouldn't say blessing in the pandemic, because how do you get a blessing in a pandemic? But normally for our families today, we focus on preschoolers. This year we focus on all ages. So again, we made up our own categories. I have discovered that apparently not everyone's family plays categories all the time growing up. It turns out that was just a very big thing in my family. But we made this, we kind of briefly explain the game. We give them a hard mode kind of way so they can do it. And we actually even included a blank copy so that families could create their own if they wanted to. They didn't have to do ours. We made 3 different sheets people could play, but we kind of encouraged them to do their own. So we have a whole bunch of different ages we're able to hit, trying different things, and being able to go from there. Again, I kind of mentioned some had virtual programming. So Pumpkin Palooza, Snowflake Follies, which are little preschool programs. We did a story time over Zoom for those. And for the other ones like Star Wars Reads Day and Harry Potter Day, we didn't do anything like that, just to try to keep 75 kids or so, or I guess 65 kids or so, on a Zoom channel doing an activity at the same time. Just was too much for us to handle. So we didn't do it for that one. All right, next one. So the next one was Mighty Machines. Historically, Mighty Machines, if you've ever heard or saw it, is we take the whole parking lot and we get city buses. We get the city bus. The fire department comes. We got Fortis to come with the lifter, and they were doing cherry pick rides for kids to go all the way up and then all the way back down. We had a grain feeder. We had a grader. We had some classic cars. We had a Zamboni. We had the little parks department mowers and stuff. And so all those kids get to sit on them, honk the horn, which I did not realize was basically all kids want to do. I walked in front of so many vehicles where a kid honked the second I got in front of them. So if you ever do an event like Mighty Machines, I'd recommend earplugs. But of course, we couldn't do it last year. So we decided to get that kind of flexibility for people again, by offering pre-recorded videos. So we reached out to a bunch of partners. We got the RCMP, Fortis, the fire department, waste management, the water treatment, and even actually the airport even did us a little video. A member of our staff, their partner works for the airport, and they were able to talk to their boss about it and contribute. So it was great. We have at the Airdrie Public Library a little reading fish named Gilbert for the preschoolers to kind of go and sit and practice their reading. So we decided to have an extra little game to it where in each video, and the video will come out once a week. So rather than one day in the summer, we made it summer long. There would be an image of Gilbert hidden in the video. We gave them the people the picture for them to put up. So you can see here in this one, there's Gilbert right there. So you would have to watch the video, and when you saw Gilbert, you could go, the form was available on our website for people to print off, but you could also go to the library and pick up your own physical copy, and they would just write in, okay, what was the video name? It was the Fortis one, okay, and where was Gilbert? And they could put down on the back of the truck right here, or they could put down, I saw Gilbert at, and then whatever the timestamp is. I think this says 46 seconds on mine. So you can say, okay, I saw him at 46 seconds behind the guy's shoulder. It's like, okay, yep, nope, they saw him. And then when you would do all of those and you'd watch the videos, you'd be able to submit and for a chance to win a prize. So you had an extra week. The program ended on the 8th, and you had one extra week to be able to still watch all the videos and find out where Gilbert was to win a prize. So it went really well. It was really great. Some of them, the videos, like, all these groups, they did it all on their own just to be like great sports and continue our partnership. So like, hats off to them for agreeing to do it. They absolutely did not have to, but they wanted to. The fire department's video was shockingly high production values. Could not believe what they had done. It was amazing. And they also were popular videos. I think the fire department had like 500 views in a couple of days on YouTube that people were watching these. So it was still a great success. The Mighty Machines program, because it's all outdoors and it's hard to count where we are, but 2 years ago we estimated we had about 800 people. So to still get like 400 or 500 people to watch a video on a fire truck to look for a picture of a fish was a great success. But all right, next up, we did try our very first writer in residence. For those of you who've never done a writer in residence program, we did ours for that was a month. There was people in the community could sign up for a one-on-one consultation with the writer in residence, to have like a 1 hour meeting where he would read over, critique, and offer you suggestions for your writing. And then they did 4 presentations, and it ran for an entire month. And in this one, we were able to do both flexible, and we had to adapt in this one. So we were flexible in the fact that if you wanted to have your one-on-one meeting, it defaulted to being in the library, because we wanted the writer residents to have a residence in the library. So we still defaulted to that. You had to wear masks. The office space we had given them had enough distance so they could be 6 feet apart. But we kind of gave that option, and we let people know, if you would like to opt into a Zoom meeting, we can offer that for you. So we were flexible to people to say, this is the date and time, but you don't want to come to the library. We're not going to hold it against you. Your meeting's not off. We'll schedule it for you on Zoom. You can still do it. They'll still be able to read your writing, offer the suggestions, all that kind of stuff, and take it from there. All the presentations and things, those were done virtually over Zoom. It worked out well. We did kind of have to, obviously, we adapted to what the world was like at that point and had to do it. But even actually in our last week of consultations, the government said that you should have as few people in as possible. And we got the word that we should be stopping doing any programming in person whatsoever. So we had to shift. So again, we were lucky enough that we were flexible, that we could send the writer in residence home with Zoom information and let everybody know. And then it was just, okay, every meeting this last week is going to be done over Zoom. We called everyone to let them know. It was, okay, look, this program fortunately had it built in that it could easily shift to online fully, if and when it did become necessary. So, we were lucky we had built that idea in, because again, now I feel as though we've all been burned on thinking things are getting better, only to have the library close back down or things like that happen. So again, there's that flexibility and adapting to the world around us. Our next one was Voice and Vision. This was a very large event that we do every year. We're doing it again this year. This will be our 6th year of doing it. We do it in September as part of Alberta Culture Days. And how it works is, back in May, 15 authors and 15 artists get together. They all submit an original piece, and they are partnered up. So if I'm the artist and you're the writer, and we're partnered, you take a look at my painting and you have to write a response piece off of my painting, and I read your story, your poem, whatever, and I have to paint or create something based off of how I feel about what you have written. And then we have a gala in September for the Culture Days to kind of help encourage and support and everything, and celebrate is, I guess, the word. So obviously we couldn't do it the way we normally do. Normally it's open to the public. 2 years ago when we did it, we had 100 people come to the library. All the artists would bring their families. There would be, the newspaper would show up. We would get some members from city council to come, things like that kind of, make it a big to-do and really earn the name gala. Of course, we could not do that this year. So we had to be pretty creative. And this is where that multiple of platforms kind of all comes together. So at that point in time, the libraries were still open, and we were at 15%, which for our library was 45 people were allowed in total. So we had to take a look at that. We have 30 artists and writers. So, okay, there's 30 people right there. I'm going to be there. There's 31. We have a couple other volunteers. So I'll have some 35 people. So we don't have tons of wiggle room. So what we decided to do was make it just for the artists. So when they came in, we had cleared out the main space of the library, and we had put chairs. When they originally set up, they were 6 feet apart, but you can see some people know each other, and they're wheelie chairs. So they kind of slowly, as the night went on, you could see the little pockets getting a bit closer and closer. And we just every now and again have to encourage them to spread back out. It was quite a fun game to play. So we were able to do that. We made it optional for the presenters and the participants if they'd like to come in person or attend via Zoom. So you can see here, we did have 8 or so people who didn't feel comfortable to come to the library for whatever reason. They decided that they didn't want to, but they still wanted to take part. So we had it set up with a Zoom meeting here. When it was their turn to present, I would go over and spotlight them. And then it would go through the computer speakers, and they would be able to talk about their painting or talk about their writing and their influences on all that. So we had that set up for people. If they were in person, they could come up and speak at the podium. Everyone was wearing masks. You can kind of see here while they're sitting, but when they came to the podium, we had hand sanitizer and wipes to wipe down the microphone. And we told people that they could take their mask off to be able to talk and be heard a bit clearer. And then you can see me looking very tired in the corner of one. I think I'm wearing the exact same jacket I am right now. So there we go. So we were able to do that. We also actually, you can kind of see right here, we were able to jerry rig with a music stand, a couple of elastic bands, and an iPad. We set up a live stream. So that was the other thing too, is we wanted to make sure that just because it's only for the artists, we know that their families want to see them attend and speak and see their art and see all that kind of stuff. So we set up a live stream through our Facebook, so people could just tune in, watch their parent or their partner or whoever, and then they could stay for the whole thing if they wanted to, or they could kind of leave depending on what they were doing. So I know we did have one person who said that their daughter wanted to attend, and their daughter was in Dubai. So their daughter was able to watch. They've been living in Dubai for the last couple of years. They haven't been able to kind of like see their parents' artwork be expressed. So they were very pleased to be able to still attend this program. And that's something like aspects of this stuff I think we will continue doing in the future, right? So this is, again, how we have like these different platforms being used, in-person Zoom, in live stream. We're probably going to have aspects of that continue. So to me, this is like a great example and probably a great look at what the future of library programming, for us at least, kind of will be. Looking at getting an author to come in. Well, maybe not everyone's comfortable coming to the library, or it's late at night and it's 40 below. So the author is at the library, and we have a Zoom going, so you can come to the library to watch the author if you'd like. And then there's your chance to get the author's autograph or to chat with them afterwards in a social manner. But if you're not comfortable and you just want to hear the reading, there's a live stream you can attend, or there's a Zoom, so you can still ask your questions and things like that. But we give people the option going forward of, do you want to come into the library, or do you want to stay home? Kind of just spinning off that a little bit, we were partnered with the employment services here in Airdrie, and they would do talks on like resume building, all that kind of stuff. And when we did one with them, they said before the pandemic, they were happy to get 2 people to come to their talks. And now during the pandemic, they're getting 6, 7, 8, even sometimes 10 people, because people can stay at home and attend the program and be able to tune in without having to get up and go, which in the wintertime is going to be an absolute blessing to be able to kind of have this infrastructure already in place. Because think about the programs that you offer, most likely for adults, where it's later at night. But if your audience is someone who got home at 5:30 and your program starts at 7 and they have to cook and get ready and then head back out the door, and it's 40 below or 35 below, how likely are they to actually come? If you give it to them virtually, they probably still will attend. But, if I was attending a talk and it's 40 below and it's at the library, and I know that, okay, the library closes at 8:30, I'm going to have to leave the library about 8:15, start my car up, go back in, so that when the library shuts down, I can get into my car and I can drive away. I don't have to sit in a cold parking lot for 10, 15 minutes. So there's just this sort of part as well. As I'd like, to me, voice and vision and what we did, aspects of it, and we'll refine it. And I think everyone should look to things like this, but that multiple ways of delivering and in multiple ways of attending a program, to me, seems like that is the way we should be looking to deliver. Especially if your library is one that is very patron focused, not saying that ours is not, but if you really go with, we want to make things as easy as absolutely possible for our patrons at any kind, at any type, in any way, this is probably a real way of looking for, we'll set up a stream, we'll set up a Zoom, we'll do stuff in person and be able to give people these big 3 options to be able to attend and take it from there. But there is a lot of kind of great wiggle room. And the night went really well. Everyone enjoyed it. We had a lot of comments here for Voice and Vision and people saying it's just nice to get out and go to an event again. I don't know about the rest of you, but I haven't been to an in-person event since this, and I was working at that event, so it wasn't quite as social or as fun for me, but it still was a fun time, but not maybe not to the level the people that were just sitting and enjoying themselves were. But to be able to do these things, so taking a look at that is usually a great way. So the last program I just want to talk about is just the summer reading club. So we learned a lot from last year's summer reading club to go into this one. Last year, we decided to do our complete own summer reading program. It was kind of at that stage in the pandemic where, you had to really think we need to justify our employment. We need to prove to our board, to everybody, that we are worth keeping around during this pandemic, and it is important to keep doing programs during this pandemic. So we took on our own summer reading club, and it was our first big online event or program. We weren't even using Zoom yet at the time, and we worked hard to try to think about how we could do this program. And again, it was before we had done a lot of stuff, so this was we jumped into the deep end, I guess, is a great way of thinking of it. So what we opted to do was we said, okay, we're going to do each day of the week will be a different subject that we're going to work on. And each week we'll have a different literary theme. So you kind of see like Mondays was cooking, Tuesdays we did art projects, Wednesdays we did STEM, Thursdays we did Lego, and Friday we did like outdoor activities that you could do at home. We set up Google Classrooms so that we could get that level of engagement. We thought that'd be great. Hey, the kids can communicate with us in Google Classrooms. We can post things to them. We can share extra articles and stuff. So if we're doing a science experiment about gravity, we can post cool little videos to show them other stuff. So we had great intentions and a great plan. It just ended up being we were not flexible or adaptable at all that first summer. So it was Google Classroom. You needed to have a Gmail account to get into these things. So that's not very flexible, because if you're not comfortable, you don't want to get a Gmail account, or your parents don't want you to have an email if you're a younger kid, that's not very flexible on our part for the patrons. It also we did do recordings, so that made it a bit easier for people in terms of flexibility. They could do the activities whenever they wanted. We would do meetings, though, those days, so that you could talk about what you had worked on, how things went. And again, if it's the same day that we released the program and we're having a meeting on it, that wasn't very flexible, because really only gives you like the morning to do the activity so you can talk about it in the afternoon. Well, that's not ideal for every family in every situation. The other thing is we didn't make it very adaptable because we weren't sure of where the pandemic was going. We had to plan this out. We planned it late because, again, we just didn't know where things were going. So it was late May by the time we kind of had a plan figured out. And we did not have a plan B for what if restrictions ease and we can do things in person. So I'm sure as a lot of you remember, the summer last year was very open, and hopefully this summer is also very open. But by the time the summer reading club started, it turns out we could have been doing in-person programming outside for all these things. We could have been getting together. We could have changed things up. But we had already established and we had built everything around being online, because we thought that's what we were going to have to do. So we didn't have the ability to, as the summer went on, to be like, okay, let's go outside. Let's do this sort of stuff. That was all shut out to us. We couldn't do it. And so the summer was not the greatest success. I remember going into that summer saying, this is either going to be the best summer we've ever had, because kids haven't done anything in a while. They're going to be excited just to revved up, get prizes, do whatever, have activities to do. Or it's going to be the absolute worst summer we've ever had in our lives, because kids are going to say, I don't want to be in front of a computer. It's summertime, and I just spent the last couple of months of school sitting in front of a computer. And it turned out to be closer to a bad summer than a good summer. I won't say it was the worst summer ever, but numbers were low, because again, we had rigidly structured this whole big event program, and it was not really ideal for our target audience. So for this year, we have learned from that, and we're able to do things differently. So this year, we're going to start off virtual, kind of see how the opening goes in the next couple of weeks go. But we have it built in that if and when possible, these programs will be shifting to in-person outdoors. We're not going to worry about this anymore, saying it's all going to be online. So when we feel as though cases are at a point and the city and everything is at a point that we think it's ready to go, and that could be the first week, it could be July 5 when the program starts. We are going to let people know, call them all, make sure that they hear from us saying, look, it's going to be outdoors, same date, same time. So everything's going to be the exact same thing going on. It's just going to be outside. And now we actually have it built in because we've established it that's going to be on Zoom and it's going to be online at these times to start. If it rains, if it's a day like yesterday where it's over 30 degrees and you're just baking in the sun, well, maybe it's too hot. God forbid this happens this spring and summer. What if there's a forest fire and your area is smoked out so you can't meet outdoors anymore? Well, we now have it built in that it'll be online. So we can let people know in advance, hey, we will let you know that morning if it is going to be shifting to virtual. But, if the forecast is calling for 40 millimeters of rain, it's going to be happening for 3 straight days. Well, we don't have to cancel these programs outright. We can still do activities and do things together. So we have that flexibility now built right in, and we have it now as well built in for the adapting to whatever the change in guidelines are. So initially we had it planned that each class or each program, each one, before we did it based off of what you were doing now, it's based off of what grade you were in. So there's kids of the same age participating together. And we originally set it up so that it would be classes no more than 18 kids. And the reason we did 18 is so that if restrictions ease so that we could be outdoors with a group of 10, we can split the group into 2, do a morning and an afternoon, and have 9 kids plus the summer student who's leading the program, and then do it all again. So we had built this in of it being, okay, what if the restriction is 10? Here's how we do it. What if the restriction is 20? Okay, well, we can just have all 18 kids at once. What if we get 50 kids to sign up for an 18-person class? Well, it's set up so that it's only in the morning. Well, we add an additional afternoon class and we can split things up that way. So we started looking at it a bit more. If it's popular, how do we adapt? How do we adapt if this happens? So we took a lot of what we learned from last year of it being so rigid and in place, and over the year have been able to kind of learn and adapt and refine to the point that right now we feel pretty confident about our summer program schedule, just built off of previous year's experience. And that's not just a summer reading club. We have preschool programs that are going ahead this summer that are set up the same way, of it being, it's going to start on Zoom and then it'll go out to the park. If the program is even called Summer Stories in the Park, and that is starting virtually at home. We're hoping to go to the park at some point, but for the time being, it's going to be virtual, but we have it built into the name to let people know, hey, we're hoping to move here if and when possible. So we just have these kinds of things. Like I said, it's been a great learning experience for us so far this year. I think a big thing to kind of say is don't be afraid to, take the spaghetti method of just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. We've been lucky that my boss has been okay with us trying programs that may not work as well, but we're going to give it a shot, see how it goes. And if it works out, great, we keep this going. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. But, trying out different things and trying to see what's going on. We have a program right now called Paws, Feathers, and Scales. It's a Zoom program. We bring in animal experts, mostly from Alberta, although I got a former colleague of mine who works now at an aquarium to talk about fish. So they come in, they just talk, kids get a chance to ask questions on Zoom. And that's something we never would have been able to do without a virtual means. So there are certain things you can try. We didn't know if it would work or not. We thought, why not? And it's been a great success so far. So you can definitely try things. I have a lot of other stories of programs we tried that did not work, that, crumbled and failed. And that's just life. You got to have very thick skin to kind of be in this one, in this kind of field, because, something may work. Something you may think is a great idea may not be very popular. Something you think is just a stupid idea that there's no way anyone would be interested in and takes off and you got a full registration. But you got to be willing to, you know, step out and try something different. So that is kind of the end of my my prepared remarks. So yeah, I guess it's open to questions. Kaylee, are there any? I didn't see the thing pop up, and I might be wrong here.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. We do have a couple of questions here. If anybody else has any questions, please feel free to use the chat box. Eric, you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. First question is, how did you track stats on the Pumpkin Palooza?
So for that, we track the stats on the take-home kits. The pumpkins, we just kind of acknowledged as it being anyone can watch this or look at this. There's no real way for us to count who is 5 seconds standing and looking at a pumpkin. Does that count? So the stats we did for Pumpkin Palooza just were who signed up to take a kit and who came and dropped off a pumpkin. We would count that as well. But okay, like that person is engaged in this program, so we're going to count them because they're taking part. And if they signed up for a kit, we counted that. And then if they attended the story time, we counted that. So Pumpkin Palooza had a couple of different stat lines. It just as we would look at it a bit differently of, okay, kit pickup, program attendance, pumpkin drop off.
Perfect. Next question is, how do you handle registration for a hybrid Zoom in-person program?
So for like what we would do would be like for most of our in-person programs that we did before, it would just be drop-in that you could just kind of come. For Voice and Vision, which was the main hybrid one that we did, I made everybody RSVP, and if they didn't RSVP that they were coming, it was assumed that like they weren't coming. And we told them straight up, if you bring somebody, they're not coming through the doors. Only you can. So we were able to, in that one, we had a head count knowing we could only have 45. We knew the amount of artists in advance, what we'd be able to play around with. Depending on going forward, so if we did like an author talk, kind of how I mentioned earlier, we would have people register to get the Zoom code. We would definitely still have to do that. And then depending on what your library, our library would kind of say is the capacity. So if for our program room with chairs in, it can normally fire coded for 33 people. So if, say, October, we get the word that, you know, if you're fully immunized and you can take your mask off, you can be next to somebody, then we would just say, okay, it's open-ended. If not, for our registration, we would just have it where you check off in person or are you going to attend via Zoom? And then we would just say, okay, you know, we've reached our in-person capacity. If that's 10 people, we would just make people aware only 10 people can attend in person. Everything else has to be on Zoom. And then we just let people know, hey, you're the 11th person to sign up that wanted to come in person. So unfortunately, you have to attend via Zoom. Or kind of play things around like that and kind of see it all kind of depend on what your library is. But that's kind of like our tentative plan right now.
Next question is, do you pay the artists an honorarium or do they volunteer for these programs? And the example was the Voice and Vision.
Voice and Vision is a volunteer program. They do get some things out of it. The organization makes a book of all the art and all the writings that they all get to take home. They also get sold as like a fundraising arm for that. We kind of help it. They're kind of like their own little thing that we help facilitate and help host. But they're all volunteers for that. When we do like an art program, so like an artist teaching an art class, we do pay an honorarium for that or like an author reading. But for these ones, it's more of the publicity and everything for them to do the activities kind of what they get paid in.
Excellent. And next question is, how are you dealing with copyright and story time?
So for us, we kind of operate under a fun little gray area. So we have created a procedure where the videos, if they're using copyrighted material, were to delete them after 2 months of them being up, which reminds me now that it's June, I need to go in and delete old ones now. So we go through, we just delete the old ones. For us, we kind of like I said, like it's when if the restrictions first came out, it seemed as though it was like if you're doing something for a profit, you cannot do it and things need to be taken down. But kind of the advice that we got and how we read into the document was, as long as it's not up forever, it can be up for a little while. And we're just ready if anyone ever, if Scholastic or Can Kids Press or ever came for me, we just take them down. But we're kind of operating under the, okay, like it's up for a little bit. We're not turning a profit. We're not, using them for promotional things. It's just like here's a book that kids can kind of listen to. A lot of it also is like rhymes. It'll normally be like a rhyme and a song and then a book. We don't normally do more than, I don't think we've ever done more than one book. For the live programs though, again, at the beginning, we were told that if it's not being saved anywhere, it's fine to read books because that's just the same as if you were doing a story time in person. It's just like it's a one-time thing. If you weren't there, that's fine. So we have it set up that we're to delete old videos that use copyrighted materials.
Excellent. Okay. There aren't any other questions in at the moment. If anybody has anything, please feel free to send them in. But if nothing else is going to come in, I guess we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Eric. That was a wonderful presentation. Lots of great information and tips that pretty much every library will be able to use regardless of size going forward. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, but no, thanks for letting me do this talk. And I hope, all enjoyed it in some way, shape, or form. If you have any questions at all, I guess I forgot to put my contact information in here, but just eric.potty at Airdrie Public Library. By all means, feel free to give me a shout if you have any follow-up.
Excellent. Oh, and somebody is just wondering about the recording of this presentation. Yes, this presentation is being recorded and it will be shared. For those of you within Marigold, it will be shared through the Staff Academy. And for those of you outside of Marigold, it will be made available on the Marigold YouTube channel. And I will send out an email to everybody who registered, letting them know when that is up and ready to go. And you are welcome to share that with whoever you would like. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We appreciate you spending some time with us, and thank you, Eric. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.